11 over 4. And then there's kind of a case 1, case 2. You do have to try both of these. So it's 7 plus 11 divided by 4, 7 minus 11 divided by 4.
Okay.
Okay, so you end up getting 18 over 4, which is a fraction, 9 over 2. And then minus 4 over 4, which is minus 1.
Okay.
Are there any steps there that are maybe unclear?
Not really.
Okay. There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot to do. It's not, it's not just, oh, here it is. Here's the answer. You gotta work it out as best you can. So let's have you try this one. Let's have you try 2x squared minus 7x minus 30 equals 0. So go ahead and give that a try. Let me know if you have questions. This one does work out sort of nicely. It's kind of like the last one. It's going to have 2 answers, no roots yet.
I got 6 and -5/2.
6 and -5/2. That is correct. That is correct here. All right, good. Okay, so the other types of problems you'll see are ones where like first possibility is it's the square root of a number, we'll call it we'll just use like square root of 5 as an example, where it does not reduce. You could also get a square root of, say, something like 8, which does reduce. Okay, this becomes 2 square root 2, and the point is you may have to do a little bit of work to get it to reduce in this problems that we're doing. So you don't really know when that's going to be the case. Like, you can't look at a problem and say, okay, I know it's going to be a square root, or it's going to be a square root that reduces or doesn't reduce. You just have to do it. Now, we also talked, I think, the other day about the square root of like -5. Did you happen to see more of those in your class?
Yeah. Kind of.
Okay, kind of. All right. And so it's kind of like 1, but this one, the I comes out, I square root of 5. And then there's also a case where it's like the square root of -8, which would be a 2i square root 2. I mean, the shortcut here is if you see a negative number, you put an I on the outside. You don't try to do anything else but that. And that's okay. I mean, that's totally allowed here. So let's look at another problem here. 2x squared plus 12x equals -5. Okay. And in this example, one of the main differences between this problem and the previous problem is that there's not a 0 on the right hand side. All right, we're going to add 5 to both sides. Okay, making this 2x squared plus 12x plus 5 equals 0. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I'd like you to calculate b squared minus 4ac for us, please, in this problem.
Okay. Uh, 104.
It is 104. Yeah. Now we have to take the square root of that, because this becomes x equals -12 plus or minus the square root of 104 over 4. So the square root of 104, you try to reduce. And I think we've talked about this at length here. You always start with 2. You always try to, you really hope that 2 works, and then it does. And then you try it again. You try 2 again. And you keep trying. All right. So for this one, there are a pair of 2's, that meaning a 2 will come out. 2 square root of whatever's left over happens to be 26.
Okay.
Right, so that becomes -12 plus or minus 2 square root 26 over 4. Now you have to divide each of them by the 4. Okay, and what's important to keep in mind here is that you cannot divide when it's inside the square root. It's always what's outside, not inside. So this becomes -3 plus or minus 1/2, or square root of 26 divided by 2. And then you probably know that this is, you can leave it written this way most of the time.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
No. All
Okay.
good.
So let me have you try one here, and then we'll maybe transition to like some SAT prep type questions. Trying to find one here that actually is kind of the same. All right, let's try this one here. 4x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Why don't you try that and let me know what you come up with.
All right.
How are you doing on this one?
Pretty good. I'm at 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3/8.
Okay. Any chance you mean 13?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. You're almost there. I'd probably give you like 9 out of 10 for this,
Okay.
which means there's probably something else you can do. Do you need a hint, or are you
I
sorry.
might need a hint.
Okay, so you're gonna divide each of these by 8,
Okay. So
and then you can simplify from there.
it'd be 1/4 plus or minus 2 times square root of 13/8.
You can divide the 2 and the 8 here on the right as well. So
Oh, I
the,
forgot you could do that.
yes, yes.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's transition here a little bit to some SAT stuff. Do you know anything about the SAT, ACT?
I know it's a big test.
Yeah, yeah, and there are actually questions on the test, and we'll just look at one here together. Questions that are very, very similar to what we've been doing. Like literally, it's a quadratic formula problem. Okay, but there's an added benefit here, which is there are multiple choice answers. Benefit here because that means you actually don't need to necessarily work through the entire calculation. It's not a free response like we've been doing. All right. Now, when you look at a problem like this, one of the strategies I teach here is to look at the answers and see what is the same and what is different between them. Could you scan the answers here and tell me something that's the same or something that's different between some of the answers?
The number 7.
That's right. It's either 7 or -7, like that. Can you tell me which is correct? Just kind of looking at it and what we've been doing. Meaning, like, is it A and B or is it C and D?
It's A and B.
It's A and B. Okay, so you can Now between A and B, what is different?
Square root of 37 and square root of 61.
So notice that comes from the B squared minus 4AC.
Yeah.
It doesn't require you don't actually need to do the quadratic formula start to finish. You just have to sort of know what is different in this case. So will you do that for us? Will you do the B squared minus 4AC and let me know whether it is A or B?
All right. It's B.
Let's see here. Yes, it is B. Very good. So you've gotten your first SAT question complete. How do you feel?
Very, very good.
All right, I like that. All right, so we'll look at another problem here together. It says, which of the following values is a solution to the above equation? Notice they're using V instead of X. That really doesn't matter here. What does matter is you want to scan the answers and say, okay, well, what's the same and what's different? It's kind of like the last one. It's like, all right, -3, 3 and 3. But this time it's -6 here. That's not either of these numbers. So like the strategies I give you don't work for all the problems all the time. All right, so just keep that in mind. Like there's no guarantee that it will always work, but because it's -6, you actually can eliminate these two answers because it's not going to be positive. It's going to be a negative number. So now we're down to figuring out, was it square root of 5 or square root of 13? Okay, so this time it's B squared minus 4AC, 6 squared minus 4 times 4 times 1. And this ends up being 20, which is neither of these numbers. You agree with that?
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, you just said like, all I got to do is figure out what's the same, what's different. Well, I mean, it works, it just doesn't always like, I mean, they're not going to write questions where you can just do that on every question. You have to sometimes have to do a little bit of math here. But maybe you can reduce the square root of 20. What does that reduce to? Will you work that out for us?
Sure. Two times square root of 5.
Yes. Now, this is one of those times where you like in your classroom, like you need to work it all the way out. But in the SAT, ACT, you don't have to. You can say, all right, square root of 5, square root of 5, I'm good. My answer is A. You need to know enough information to be able to answer the problem adequately.
Okay.
So there are a few literally like solve the quadratic equation on the SAT. Maybe like one question. You'll get something like that. All right. So let me have you try one here on your own. So like the SAT, ACT, I just want your final answer, A, B, C, or D. You should do enough work until you verify that it's one answer or another.
Okay.
So if you have any issues or questions, please ask. How are you doing on this one?
Pretty good. at the point where I am right now, I have 2 times the square root of 18.
Okay.
Is
Hmm,
that,
uh, ooh, well,
I don't
let's
know
just,
how I got there.
yeah, so you'd been doing so well. That's why I figured, this would be something where you just would say, yep, it's letter blank, and we would move on to something else. That's okay. Um, there, there's always kind of a shortcut to these problems, but I don't want to get into that yet because I think it's worth to keep doing it the way we've been doing. The quadratic formula is minus 12 plus or minus the square root of 12 squared minus 4 times 3 times 6. Did you get this far?
Yeah.
Okay. 12 squared is 144. 4 times 3 times 6 is 72. So maybe you got to here minus 12 plus or minus the square root of 72 over 6. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. That's where I think I had the miscalculation.
Okay. So from here, we're going to take the square root, because you said something about an 18. I mean, square root of 72 does break down to 18, but you can go a bit further.
Yeah, to 9.
Yeah, 2 and 36, 2 and 18, 2 and 9, and then you try 3, 3 and 3. So a 3 comes out and a 2 comes out. So what I'd like you to do from here is keep going and tell me what your final answer is.
All right. I got 2 plus or minus square root of 2 over 6.
Okay, tell me how you got the 2.
The or -2.
Yes, -2. So just like the previous problem, you're dividing both of these by 6, like you just said.
Yeah.
It's not a choice. You don't get to say, oh, I'm only going to do it to the 1. You have to do it to both here. And -2 plus or minus 6 divided by 6 is 1. So just the square root of 2 there.
Okay.
So your answer here would be letter A.
Okay.
All right. So now let's we're going to kind of transition here a little bit here. So the answer to the previous problem is -2 plus or minus the square root of 2. And what that really is it's really the 2 answers. It's -2 plus the square root of 2, and it's -2 minus the square root of 2. Okay, so we're gonna actually add these together, and we'll talk about why in a moment. When these add together, can you tell me what goes away, what cancels?
The square root of 2.
Yeah, they go bye-bye here. And so your answer is actually just minus 4. Now we did a problem earlier where the answer was 1 over 4 plus square root of 13 over 4. And then it was 1 over 4 minus the square root of 13 over 4. What do these add up to?
One half.
Yeah, 1/2.
Plus. Yeah.
Well, and again, these cancel.
Yeah, I just noticed the negative.
Okay, and then we had a problem like this. I think in a previous problem it was like -3 plus the square root of 26 over 2 plus -3 minus the square root of 26 over 2. When you add these solutions together, can you tell me what this becomes?
-6.
-6. What do you notice about all of these?
They cancel out.
Yeah, the roots cancel out. There's no roots. There's no roots in the answer, which is kind of interesting because you have roots and then they go away. And you might be wondering now, well, why is Matthew even bringing this up? The reason is sometimes they give you questions where they actually ask you this. They ask you to find the sum of the solutions. So this problem says, what is the sum of all values of m that satisfy 2m squared minus 16m plus 8 equals 0? So the interesting thing here is that based on what we just did, that it's not B and it's not C. It's not B and it's not C. Let's just say you were going to guess, you have a better chance of guessing 1 out of 2 versus 1 out of 4. So anything you can do to reduce the answers is really an important step here when taking these standardized tests. Okay. Now that doesn't help you here because you still have to solve this thing, but you have a better shot of finding the answer when you know some of these little shortcuts here. So let me see if I can find one more like that. Actually, it does not work. Okay, let's just quickly do this one here. So it's going to be minus 16 plus or minus the square root of minus 16 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8 all over 2 times 2. Now, here's the shortcut here. The shortcut is like, you don't actually need to calculate what's in the square root, believe it or not, because it's going to cancel. So it ends up just being the part out in front here that matters, because it's 16 over 4 plus or minus the square root of something over 4. But remember how the square root part went away?
Yeah.
So that's really important here. Like you don't even need to deal with that part. So the answer here is it's 4 plus square root of something over 4 plus 4 minus the square root of something over 4, and they will just cancel. All right, so what do your two solutions add up to then in this case?
8.
8. Yes. All right. Okay, so we will stop our lesson here for today.